Jury deliberations will pick up again tomorrow in the Bob Lee murder trial in San Francisco. Nima Momeni, seen on the left side of your screen, stands accused of stabbing the tech executive Bob Lee to death in April of last year. Prosecutors say Momeni attacked Lee because he was angry about an incident involving his sister and Lee, but Momeni says he was acting in self-defense. The jury has deliberated for 6 days now and still no verdict. Joining us now is Shannan Dugan. She is a criminal defense attorney who has been a spectator inside the courtroom for the entirety of this trial. Shannan, nice to see you this morning.
Good morning, Max.
6 days of deliberation so far, day 7 beginning tomorrow. My big question for you is, does this seem like a long time to come to a verdict?
I don't think so, because this is a murder case. It's not a shoplifting case. It's not a misdemeanor. So from my perspective, I think it's a good thing the jury's taking a long time. It means they understand the gravity of the situation. They don't want to let a murderer off, but they also don't want to convict a man of murder if he didn't do it. So I think the fact that they're taking a long time speaks highly of the jury, and they understand how important their job is.
Shannan, you and I have talked about the burden of proof necessary for a long time in order to convict Nima Momeni of murder, if that is the verdict that they could potentially reach. That's the crime he's charged with. However, is it possible that the jury doesn't doesn't convict of first-degree murder, but maybe could of a lesser degree?
Yes, absolutely. And that may also be a reason why the deliberations are taking so long. He's charged with first degree murder, which requires premeditation, but there are also what's called lesser included offenses, which are second degree murder and manslaughter. Second degree murder is if he didn't have that premeditation, but he intended to stab Bob Lee without any legal justification. For manslaughter, if he acted in the heat of passion, if he acted impulsively, but without that premeditation or without any kind of planning, they could convict him of manslaughter. Also, if he acted in self-defense, but his belief that Bob Lee was attacking him or was threatening him was not reasonable, or that he shouldn't have used deadly force against Bob Lee, they could convict him of voluntary manslaughter based on imperfect self-defense. And then if they believe he just acted with criminal negligence, they could convict him of involuntary manslaughter versus voluntary manslaughter for the other charges, or they could acquit him. So they have a whole list of options, and they are probably considering all those as they go through their deliberations.
With this whole list of options, what happens if they can't come to agreement? If some just say, we're not comfortable with charging him with murder, versus others saying this is somebody who we do want to convict of murder, but they can't even come to an agreement on any other charge, what happens?
Right. It's really interesting because they have to move from the top down. So they could conceivably acquit him of murder. Maybe all 12 people agree this is not a murder case. And then they would move down the list to maybe he is guilty of manslaughter. Then they have to agree on manslaughter. So they have to move from the top down. They could be hanging on everything. They could have disagreement on whether he's guilty of murder or not. And it could be a hung jury on all counts, or it could just be a hung jury on certain counts. For example, if they all agree that he did not commit murder, but many of them believe that he's guilty of manslaughter. So, it could be a hung jury, though. This jury could be deadlocked, and that might be one of the reasons this is taking so long. And with a hung jury, a mistrial is declared, and the case would have to be retried from the beginning with a new jury.
Shannan, as always throughout this case, as we've seen, there have been little surprises here and there every week. And this past week, we did see the defense team filing a motion for a mistrial, citing that one of the witnesses that the prosecution brought on knowingly was not forthcoming on the stand. The judge did dismiss that, so it didn't end up being much of anything. But what was the point of this?
Well, the defense has had issues with that witness, Bo Mahazabi, from the beginning. Bo the DJ, as the defense called him, was the one who overheard the call between Bob Lee and Nima Momeni. Bo is the one that said Nima Momeni was acting aggressively, was interrogating Bob Lee, and Bo told Bob, "Get off the phone, this guy's crazy." But Bo denied doing drugs with Bob Lee that night, and he didn't admit that until the defense impeached him with his prior statements to a detective saying yes, they were partying, they were doing cocaine. So I think the defense wanted to lay a groundwork for a possible appeal later on, and they're covering their bases. I also think the defense thought that Bo was lying from the beginning, and then when they showed the video in closing of Bo and Bob Lee doing what appeared to be cocaine off a metal object, they probably thought they had further grounds for that motion or a later appeal.
And Shannon, I know we could talk for half an hour about this, but I just got to quickly ask you, we got to wrap, but where's your head at? 1:30 on Monday, deliberations continue. Where's your head at?
I think they're going to come back with something. I mean, who knows what they're doing exactly in that jury room, but I think they're going to come back with something. The fact that they're coming back at 1:30, I suspect maybe they wanted to give all the fellow jury members time to really solidify their decisions, sleep on it. So I don't know if that's going to be a verdict of guilty and acquittal or a hung jury, but I suspect they're going to come back with something on Monday.
Shannan Dugan will be watching closely with you. Thank you for that, as always, and we will be ready to bring you the verdict whenever the jury does reach one. You can catch up on all of our coverage on this trial on our website, kpix.com, and on the free CBS News app.